At the age of 65, I feel like my life has entered a new chapter. One where everything familiar no longer holds the same meaning as before. Over the years, I was someone who constantly strived to please everyone around me. I was the friend who showed up whenever someone needed help, the family member who never forgot special occasions, and the neighbor who eagerly participated in every community event. For a long time, I believed that living this way was the right thing to do, that it was how I demonstrated my kindness, dedication, and even my self-worth. But deep down, I often questioned whether all these sacrifices truly brought me happiness. I can't recall the exact moment when I first felt the weight of my exhaustion. Perhaps it was one late evening when I came home after a long day spent helping others, only to realize I had no energy left to care for myself. Or maybe it was during a gathering where I stood in a crowded room but felt completely invisible, like just another face in the sea of people. These moments became more frequent, and I began to sense a growing emptiness that I couldn't ignore. A few years ago, on a crisp autumn afternoon, I went for a walk in the nearby park, as I often did. The trees lining the path were painted in shades of gold and red, and the dry leaves crackled beneath my feet, creating an oddly calming symphony. I picked a bench near the lake and sat down, gazing at the still waters that mirrored the quietness in my heart. A gentle breeze carried the earthy scent of autumn, and in that tranquil moment, a series of questions suddenly echoed in my mind. What am I really spending my time on? Are all the things I've been doing truly worthwhile? And which relationships genuinely bring joy and meaning to my life? These questions weren't new, but in the serenity of that afternoon, they seemed louder and more urgent than ever. I felt compelled to confront them rather than brush them aside, as I had so often done before. The answers didn't come immediately, but from that moment, I began to view my life through a different lens, a lens that emphasized the value of time and the importance of meaningful relationships. Time, I realized, is the most precious asset we have. But unlike money or material possessions, time cannot be saved or reclaimed. Each day that passes is a day we can never get back. In my younger years, I thought I had an endless supply of time, and so I wasted it on pointless conversations, obligations I begrudgingly accepted, and relationships that added no real value to my life. But as the years passed, I came to understand that every moment is precious and should not be squandered. This newfound understanding prompted me to change how I lived my life. I stopped chasing superficial relationships that I knew would only drain my energy. Instead, I chose to focus on the things that brought genuine peace and happiness. However, change is never easy. Along the way, I often felt lonely, as though I was cutting myself off from the world. There were moments when saying no to an invitation filled me with guilt, making me feel selfish. But over time, I came to understand that setting boundaries is not selfish. It's an act of self-love and protection. What surprised me was how much joy I discovered in stillness when I began slowing down and prioritizing myself. Being alone was no longer something I feared or equated with abandonment. Instead, it became a space where I could reflect, listen to my inner voice, and find a sense of peace I had never known before. I started cherishing the small moments, sipping a warm cup of tea, watching sunlight filter through the trees, or simply allowing my mind to wander through beautiful memories of the past. But perhaps the most important lesson I learned during this journey was the freedom that came with change. The freedom to say no to things that didn't align with my values or goals. The freedom to let go of relationships that no longer brought joy or meaning. And most importantly, the freedom to live authentically, not to please others, but to honor my own heart. Looking back, I have no regrets about the years I've lived. Each experience, whether joyful or painful, has shaped the person I am today. But now, I understand that life at 65 is not about clinging to everything as it was before. It's about choosing what truly matters and letting go of what no longer fits. And I believe that is the best way to live a fulfilling and meaningful life. At 65, I realized my perception of time had completely changed. At the age of 65, I came to a profound realization. My perception of time had shifted completely. In my younger years, like so many others, I believed that life was a long, endless journey. I didn't hesitate to waste time on meaningless conversations, responsibilities I didn't truly want, or even relationships that I knew brought no joy or harmony to my life. Back then, time felt infinite, like a resource that would never run out. But as the years went by and I began to grasp the finite nature of time, every single moment of my life became more precious than ever before. Appreciating the small moments. Time is no longer just numbers on a clock. It is an invisible treasure that I had to learn to cherish. Each morning, instead of rushing into the day's usual tasks, I take a moment to enjoy a warm cup of coffee and watch the first rays of sunlight stream through my window. I've discovered that simply pausing for a moment to listen to birdsong or feel the gentle breeze can bring an unexpected sense of peace to my heart. I remember one particular afternoon when I decided to take a walk in the nearby park. The crisp autumn air carried the earthy scent of fallen leaves, which crunched softly beneath my feet as I wandered. The golden hues of the setting sun painted the sky in fiery tones of red and orange. I sat down on a park bench, watching the stream of people pass by. No one hurried to greet me, and I didn't feel the need to do the same. In that stillness, I realized something profound. Happiness doesn't have to come from grand, extraordinary things. Sometimes, it's simply the feeling of being truly present in the moment. Letting go of relationships that no longer serve. In addition to appreciating time, I also realized that not all relationships are worth holding on to. When I was younger, I believed that maintaining a good relationship meant constantly putting in effort, being the first to check in, attending every gathering, and staying engaged even when I felt drained. I thought this reflected care, kindness, and responsibility. But over the years, I've learned that a truly valuable relationship is one where both people mutually respect and uplift each other. I once had friends with whom I felt the constant pressure to make our conversations interesting or keep the atmosphere lighthearted. Over time, these relationships stopped bringing me comfort or joy. Instead, they became burdensome. Eventually, I made the decision to let them go. This doesn't mean I stopped loving or appreciating those people. I am still grateful for the beautiful memories we shared and the lessons they brought into my life. But I now understand that some relationships are only meant to last for a specific phase of life. When that phase ends, letting go is necessary for both parties to move forward freely. Discovering the beauty of solitude. An interesting thing happened when I began slowing down and focusing on what truly mattered. I started to see the beauty in solitude. In the past, I was afraid of being alone. I tried to fill the silence with conversations, social gatherings, or even the background noise of the TV. But now, I've come to understand that solitude is not the absence of connection. It is the space where I face myself, listen to the deepest parts of my soul, and find the peace I once thought was out of reach. Quiet afternoons, spent with nothing but a favorite book or the soft strains of music, have become moments I cherish the most. There is no longer the pressure to share every thought with someone else or the need to explain myself. It's just me and my thoughts, free to wander and explore. Setting clear boundaries in relationships. One of the most important lessons I've learned is how to set boundaries in relationships. I've said no to invitations I knew would leave me feeling exhausted. I've learned to say no to things that don't align with my values and desires. This wasn't easy, especially since I had grown so accustomed to pleasing everyone. But every time I said no, it felt like I was shedding an invisible burden. Instead of trying to maintain every relationship, I chose to focus on the ones that truly mattered. I spend my time with friends who make me feel comfortable being myself, with family members whose conversations bring warmth and joy. The gatherings have become fewer, but they've also become far more meaningful. I no longer feel the need to please everyone, and that has brought a sense of relief I never thought possible. Learning to love myself. One of the biggest lessons I've taken away from this journey is the importance of self-love. I used to think that loving oneself was selfish, but now I understand that if I don't take care of myself and value who I am, I won't be able to bring joy or support to those around me. Loving oneself isn't just about taking care of the body. It's about protecting the soul, setting necessary boundaries, and cherishing what makes me happy. I've started small but meaningful habits. Each morning, I take a few minutes to write down things I'm grateful for. I practice yoga and meditate to calm my mind. I allow myself to enjoy simple pleasures, a delicious meal, a favorite movie, or quiet moments spent with a cup of tea. Finding joy in simplicity. At 65, I've realized that life doesn't have to be complicated to be meaningful. Sometimes, the greatest joys come from the simplest things: feeling the cool breeze on your face, hearing the laughter of a child, or catching the warm gaze of a loved one. I no longer feel the need to chase perfection or meet society's lofty expectations. Instead, I focus on the things that truly bring me peace and happiness. In embracing this perspective, I found a new sense of freedom. I'm no longer tethered to the idea of what my life should look like or what others expect of me. Instead, I live in alignment with my own values, cherishing every fleeting moment. Life may not be endless, but it is rich with opportunities to create meaning and joy in the time we have. At 65, as I reflect on my life, I realize that every stage and experience has brought profound lessons. Life, with all its ups and downs, has taught me things that I feel compelled to share, not only with those of my age, but also with anyone on the journey of seeking balance and meaning. First, I've learned that prioritizing oneself is not selfish. Instead, it's a way to love yourself and create a foundation for loving others. Years ago, I used to think that taking care of myself was unnecessary, even indulgent. I gave all my time and energy to pleasing others, family, friends, colleagues. But now, I understand that if we aren't happy, if we don't preserve our physical and emotional well-being, we cannot give love or support to others in a sustainable way. Learning to say no has been a pivotal moment in my life. It wasn't easy, especially when you're used to always saying yes. In the past, I felt guilty every time I declined an invitation or refused a request for help. But over time, I've realized that saying no isn't about rejecting others. It's about protecting your energy and peace. Saying no to things that don't matter allows you to focus on what truly does, bringing meaning and joy to your life. Second, I've come to understand that the quality of relationships is far more important than their quantity. In today's modern society, we're often caught up in building and maintaining large networks of relationships. But I've learned that instead of trying to keep everyone in my life, I should be selective and spend time with those who truly value and understand me. A deep conversation, a heartfelt hug, or the presence of a close friend means more than attending countless social events where I feel out of place. Curating relationships isn't about excluding others. It's about creating space for genuine and meaningful connections. Another important lesson I want to share is the importance of cherishing time. Time, as I've learned, is the most precious asset we have. It cannot be saved, bought, or reclaimed, and every moment that passes is gone forever. At this stage of life, I'm more aware than ever that we don't have endless time to waste on things that don't bring happiness. Spend your time on what truly matters: family, friends, passions that inspire you, and above all, yourself. Don't let unnecessary responsibilities or toxic relationships drain your time and energy. To the younger generation, those who may not yet grasp the finiteness of time, start cherishing it now. Don't wait until you realize you've missed too much. Spend time with those you love, pursue the dreams you've always wanted to chase, and savor the simple moments that bring you joy and peace. Life is short, and every moment is valuable. I hope my story serves as a gentle reminder for you to pause, reflect, and make changes if needed. You don't need to live by anyone else's expectations, but your own. Live a life that feels fulfilling to you, a life full of meaning and joy. If this story resonates with you, take a moment to listen to yourself. Ask yourself how you truly want to live, what makes you happy, and what changes you can make to create a more meaningful life. Don't be afraid to let go of things or people that no longer align with your values and goals. Doing so isn't a failure, it's a necessary step toward finding happiness. Lastly, I invite you to continue this journey with me. The Life Stories 365 channel is a space where I share meaningful stories and lessons from life, not only from my perspective, but also from the experiences of many others. These stories serve as reminders that we're not alone in our choices and challenges. Each story is a lesson, an encouragement to live more fully. Click the subscribe button so you won't miss any of our stories. Every video on Life Stories 365 is a small step toward exploring the meaning of life, appreciating the simple moments, and finding balance between work, family, and yourself. This journey isn't about the destination, it's about how we savor every step along the way. And I'm so excited to continue sharing and walking this path with you. Remember, no matter what stage of life you're in, you have the power to change, to choose to live in a way that makes you happy. Life is yours, and you deserve to enjoy it fully. Thank you for taking the time to listen to my story, and I hope it brings you some inspiration and reflection.